and welcome to my talk today about limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are beliefs that hi everyone, Salamat Pagi from Bali. I wanted to talk to you today about limiting beliefs because I truly 100% believe that they are the one thing that are holding you back in life from being able to shine and to be the absolute best version of yourself. So I want to jump straight into it, and we'll sort of talk a little bit about, first of all, how they occur, and then towards the end I'll tell you exactly how we can actually heal our limiting beliefs ourselves so that we can create more space and expansion for other things to come into our life, and so that we can actually shine to be the absolute very best version of who we are and why we're meant to be here. So right out of the gate, I want to talk to you about a soul's journey. I personally believe, it's my belief, that we arrive here on earth with a job to do, and that's to evolve through our dharma and our karma. And our dharma is actually our life's purpose. Our karma is moving through the residual from our past lives that we need to, all the lessons that we need to learn, I guess. It's not a form of punishment, so that we can then evolve towards divinity, towards oneness. And so I also firmly believe that we choose our parents, and that sounds a little bit crazy sometimes, particularly if you've had a very difficult experience with your parents. But I believe that we choose our parents because they are the very best vehicle for us to be able to actually evolve through our karma and move us in the right direction. So if that means that we even need to experience pain, then we actually chose that because the soul is wise and it knows exactly what it needs so that it can go through its evolution. So bearing that in mind, that we choose our parents, we also choose our partners and our triggers, I guess, the things that are going to illuminate that darkness inside of us that needs to come out to see the light so that we can heal. And it's actually the reason why we keep on getting stuck in patterns and in difficult relationships, or maybe showing up for the same jobs and not really feeling super fulfilled. It's all the same thing. This is part of our soul's journey, and believe it or not, we're getting shown signs along the way of where to move towards the darkness so that we can heal. But most of us are hardwired pretty much to not go to the darkness, and we like to keep things all happy and fluffy and peaceful, and so when stuff gets a little bit difficult, we react in not a great way, to be honest. Sometimes we can revert back to our childhood patterns of misbehaving, and I didn't get my way, so I'm gonna fight back and argue. And that side of you is the ego. The side that fights back, or the one that feels really uncomfortable in that space, is the ego. So I just wanted to understand that it's a really quick introduction to the soul, and like there's a lot more complexity. We could go on for an hour around just the soul and the soul's journey, but I wanted to set the scene there that we have this soul's journey. We arrive with a job to do, and we actually unconsciously, quite unconsciously, choosing. It's like, when I say unconscious, we're not going out saying I'm gonna really go towards the dark today and see if I can find a boss that's going to employ me, that's going to treat me like shit so that I can evolve through that. We don't do that. It's like a soul's knowing, and we're drawn to the things that will help us evolve. And that's including all of the super painful experiences, including losing somebody that you love to death or relationship, whatever. So then the ego's job is actually to keep us from that place of peace. So like I said before, any time that the soul even might look like it has a hint of getting close to that place of divinity, oneness, peace, the ego will pipe up and it will try and sabotage that moment. So we have to know that it's important for us to have an ego. If we don't have an ego, then we are not here. So once the ego dissolves completely, then we have found oneness, and it's likely that most of us won't achieve that in our lifetime, let alone several lifetimes. Okay, so what I wanted to say beyond that is that we are the reflection of all of the experiences that we've had thus far. So there are people that think they have knowledge, and perhaps they've gone to university, and I certainly went to university and studied adult education, but the knowledge that I'm talking about is the knowledge that's come from the soul. It's a deep knowing, and it's the same thing that they talk about when they make the statement that every morning when you wake up, you already have everything that you actually need to survive. So we don't need anything other than what we actually have inside of us to guide us through our life, and that's actually called knowledge. The other stuff and guff that comes into our life is learnt knowledge, and learnt knowledge is all based on perception. So perception is part of the mind's illusory state, where we make up our minds one way or another about the world that we are in. So it explains why two siblings can be born to the same parent, and yet, or same parents, in fact, have the very similar upbringing, but then they actually have completely different outcomes in the way that they perceive the world and the way they even perceive their childhood, in fact. So it's super interesting perception. So remembering again that we are born with knowledge. We come here on this earth with a deep knowledge. We then add information that is just learnt information. It's not what we term knowledge in our spiritual world, I guess, if you'd like to call it that. And this isn't woohoo. This is a truth. And learnt knowledge is based on the person's perception at the time that they sent that information to you or shared that information to you. We can all read from the same book. You can imagine even the Bible, how many different interpretations there have been of that over the years. So it is absolutely 100% comes down to our perception of the moment at the time. So I then want to talk about, we will get to limiting beliefs. I just want to set the scene a little bit about how the brain actually functions. So before we need to know what the brain functions, we need to know how the mind functions. So the mind receives information from the senses. So you see, hear, smell, taste, or feel something. And then that information comes into the mind, and the mind automatically on autopilot looks to a memory or a time where you may have experienced something like that before. So if you've experienced something like that before, your mind will look to the lower mind and it will say, was that the same as the last experience? Unfortunately, most of us stay in the lower mind. So usually the mind says, yeah, that's exactly like the last time I experienced that. And then we go to the filing cabinet in the brain and we see where we filed that away. So for example, if it was a pleasurable experience, say it was the first time you had an ice cream, it was sweet, then you go to the pleasurable part of the brain that filed that away as being sweet. So next time somebody offers you an ice cream, you welcome that to yourself and you eat the ice cream and you experience pleasure, hopefully, if it's the right flavor. So the alternative is that if somebody has maybe fobbed you off or something and you felt quite uncomfortable with that, then the next time that happens, then you will look to lower mind, say, have I experienced this before? And lower mind will look to the trauma part of the mind and it will say to the brain, and say, yes, you have experienced this before. And what happens over time is if we have it repeating often enough and we're on autopilot, so our neurons fire across synapses to that particular part of the brain and file that experience in that part of the brain, what actually happens is that pathway strengthens over time. And we don't even have to be conscious of the thought. We may even just sense or experience something, and automatically our lower mind goes to the filing cabinet in the brain, and then actually it stores it in there as being another opportunity or another situation where you've been hurt, just the same. In fact, it's not the same, because if we really truly analyze what's going on, no two situations in life are the same. They're completely different. So you get bitten by a dog when you're a small child, when you're 50 years of age on the beach and a dog rushes before you, perhaps it's running up for a pat, you don't know, but automatically the brain will see that as a threat, and it will actually put you into flight and fright mode, and there'll be fear, there'll be cortisol running through the body, which has enormous effect on all of your organs, particularly the kidneys, and there becomes this chemical and hormonal response. So we know that that dog is nothing to do with the dog that bit us when we were a young child, but we don't seem to have control over it. So this becomes a limiting belief. In that particular situation, you may have a limiting belief that all dogs are dangerous, for example. And we know that all dogs aren't dangerous. There's many dogs that are beautiful and sweet and really lovely to have around. Just checking my notifications, checking. Okay, cool. All right, so moving on from that is, so one of the problems is that when we have these limiting beliefs, like all dogs are dangerous, for example, when we see a dog rushing towards us, as I said, we will have cortisol running through our body and adrenaline is firing, and that can have a big impact on our physical body. If that happens over and over and over again and you're exposed to fear, so just have a look at what's going on in the media at the moment, then your cortisol levels are flowing through the body at a high rate, higher than normal, and it will actually start to have a very, very physical impact on your health. Not to mention your sense of wellness and well-being. You will feel, just edgy and not quite right and imbalanced and all sorts of stuff that'll throw your chakras out. And so we really need to start to become witness to what's going on when we receive these messages and we have these senses coming through into memory. So the alternative is when we have this memory and we're looking to lower mind, we actually have the opportunity, and it's called free will, to look to higher mind. Once we look to higher mind says, well, that dog's not the same as the last dog that bit me or hurt me. And higher mind then has the opportunity to look to soul and say, all dogs are not equal. In fact, I can be completely equanimous in this situation, stand my ground, and let's just be open to the infinite possibilities of what this interaction will occur. I'm not suggesting that you don't take yourself out of danger, because a fear response is there to keep you safe. What I'm suggesting is that if we stay in this fear response because of our limiting beliefs, then we are actually affecting our health at a chemical level, which then converts to cellular level and affects our organs, and it stops us from being able to function. This is scientific proof and fact that we need to start having more control over witnessing our minds and our thoughts, because if we don't rein them in and see when we charge off with our limiting beliefs, then we're going to be living in a state that is not healthy for our bodies. So 100% we are whole human beings. We're not just a mind, we're not just spiritual, we're not just emotional, and we're not just physical. We are the whole combination together, and everything works in synchronicity with each other. So what happens when we have limiting beliefs? So usually they're coming from, most of the time they're coming from an experience that you experienced when you were very young, and when you were open and your soul was in this beautiful place where we had the capacity to trust and believe in everything that is said to you and told to you. So, for example, if you are a young child and you are very loving of your mother, for example, and you look to her for nourishment from the breast, you look to her for nourishment from the kitchen, you look to her for cuddles and hugs and safety and comfort and all of those real primary needs that we have when we're small children. And then one day you do something that is maybe less than, I guess, maybe you determine it as naughty or something, and your mother, the person that you look to for all of your primary needs, calls you an idiot. So that would really hurt and, in fact, injure a child. And believe it or not, it only takes that one time of fobbing off when you're going to show your mother your first picture from your preschool day, and you're super proud of it because the teacher gave you a gold star, and you run home and say, "Mommy, or Dad, this is what I've done. I drew this today." And they'll say, "Oh, your sister or your brother did a much better job than you. I'm not putting that on the fridge," for example. That's it. That can create a limiting belief that I'm not as good as my brother or my sister, or I'm not worthy enough to put this on the fridge. And yeah, you can say that is like, how can that affect the rest of your life? How can that stop you from shining? But you know what? The next time you get fobbed off by somebody, your brain has already experienced this mini trauma, and it places it in the same filing cabinet. So think about what I said before. We go back to that place in the filing cabinet, and we have a look at the last time that we experienced that. And the last time we experienced it was fairly traumatic for us. It hurt. We felt a little wounded in the heart. And so then we treat it the same way. And all of this is happening from your subconscious mind. Conscious mind is linked to soul. Conscious mind knows that your picture was beautiful. It knows that you are worthy. It knows that you are loved. Conscious mind is unbroken. It can never be broken. It can't be broken from a harsh comment from your parent when you were younger. It can't be broken from a traumatic experience when at any stage in your life. What is broken is the mind, and the way that the mind responds to it from lower mind, and the way that that information gets translated to the brain. And the beautiful thing is that this can be fixed. We can actually go in and change these stories in our mind. Now, one of the ways that we can do that is to meditate on that. Meditate, and when we're talking to somebody and we get triggered by something, catching ourselves, noticing it, noticing the limiting belief, and then meditating on that. And most of the time in the beginning, you may not actually know where it came from. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it's helpful for people to go back through their story. And if that's helpful for you, then I suggest that you do it. But all thoughts are energy, and remembering that our subconscious mind is our energy. So all thoughts are just energy, and they are from the illusory mind. So therefore, all thoughts are illusions, all of them. Okay? So all thoughts are illusions, all feelings are real. So the feelings that we have, this is more in connection to your soul, into your conscious self. But the thoughts are illusion, and they are created by your perception of a situation at the time. The way that you interpret them through the brain, through either you choose lower mind or higher mind, is entirely up to you. And whether you live your life in fear and pain or live your life in joy and peace is, again, entirely up to you. You get to choose. So the very first thing to do is to look when you are experiencing something, to witness the mind, see what it is that you are you meeting that at the lower mind, or are you meeting it at the higher mind? And if you're meeting it at the lower mind, what can you do to change that? Like, what could you actually do to repurpose and rethink that situation? This is where meditation comes in. So you meditate on it, and meditate and sit with that feeling, sit with the discomfort, allow discomfort to come up, because when discomfort arises, and we would often call that anxiety, in the anxiety is really powerful information, and that powerful information is going to be the fodder for you to actually unravel and start to heal and to break through your limiting beliefs. So once you get that powerful information, I would suggest that you start to write it down. And even if it is about the situation, I vaguely remember some time when my dad said this to me, or my brother said this to me, or my sister said this to me, or my school teacher said this to me, and I felt. When was the first time that you actually felt pain in relation to that emotion that you're feeling when somebody has triggered you? That's a really important question. Go back, if you can, to see when the very first time that you experienced that pain. Okay. So what do we do about it when we discover a limiting belief? There's quite a few techniques that I use. One of them is muscle testing to actually determine whether or not you've actually got the right limiting belief, because sometimes our mind, remember being an illusion, can play tricks with this. And to be honest, if we're not really ready to go and see our dark stuff, it's probably not going to really work for you until you're ready to meet your dark stuff head on. My teacher, A.G. Mohan, said you can't walk into a dark room with a torch and the darkness still exists. So what I'm asking you to do is be ready to shine the light on the darkness. And as soon as you're ready to do that, the darkness will reveal itself to you. But then you need to be prepared to do the work around that. And look, it's not super easy, but honestly, it's much easier meeting the darkness than it is to sit in darkness and try and in authenticity by just, I'm like, yeah, everything's okay, that's, I'm fine, everything's great, I'm healed and blah, 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 blah. That's not serving you, and it's not serving anybody else that is in your life. So I would suggest that you stop playing that game now, for your health and for your well-being and for your relationships and for everything that is happening around you. So first of all, I'll just run through a couple of limiting beliefs that I know that most people carry, not all, and then you can go through and write them down, and then I'll show you how to muscle test, and then I'll show you what to do with those limiting beliefs. So first of all, if you've got a pen and paper, or maybe you can type on your computer or your phone, whatever you're on. So one of the, unfortunately, the saddest limiting beliefs that is the most prevalent is, I'm not worthy of love. So that is a statement, that is a limiting belief, because of course every single person on this planet is worthy of love. So I am not worthy of love. So I would write that down and I would test it later. Don't do it now, even if you know how to muscle test. We're going to go through and I'll tell you a few more that it breaks my heart that when I work with people, and even myself, I actually did these with myself and I had these limiting beliefs. And I did go down the rabbit hole and I did see where the limiting beliefs came from. But again, it doesn't really matter. The limiting belief is what matters, because the mind is illusory and the mind created the limiting belief. So the mind can also disconnect that in the brain and start with a new belief pattern. Okay? Sorry, just going a little dark there. Okay. So the next one is, so I'm not worthy of love. The next one is, I like myself. So there are so many people that don't actually like themselves. There's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes we've done things that we are not proud of and we've not yet forgiven ourselves for. And we carry guilt around that. So I'd just like to talk about guilt for a moment. Guilt is a waste of time. Guilt is a waste of your time and your energy, and it also is stopping you from shining. So if you have guilt over anything that you've done, I would ask yourself, who made you the judge and the jury and the executioner? You don't have any right to be in that position, to judge yourself so harshly that you have condemned yourself to guilt. Judgment isn't of us. It's not a quality that we should be engaging in, I guess, for want of a better word. So if you have done anything wrong, see it for what it was, a beautiful lesson to evolve, and then move on from that. So just see you later, move on. Okay, back to I like myself. The next statement is I love myself. I love myself fully and unconditionally. That means I don't have to be anybody else. I don't have to do anything just so that I can love myself. So I love myself unconditionally. Other people like me easily. So ask that question of yourself. Other people love me unconditionally. How many people have been people pleasers in the past? I'll put my hand up for that one. So how many people feel that they have to do something in order for other people to love them? That's just bollocks. You don't have to be anything other than who you are. And if other people don't love that, then what other people think of me is none of my business. One of the 4 agreements. So hold that into your heart. But certainly ask yourself, do you hold a limiting belief that other people don't love you unconditionally, that you actually have to do something to win other people's love? Okay, so next one is I respect me. What do you think would happen if you're holding the energy that you don't respect yourself? Do you think that other people would respect you? 100% no. Everything is energy. If you are holding the energy and you muscle test and the negative for that, I would suggest that you do the work on that as soon as you possibly can, because you'll find, actually this may sound familiar to you, you may be walking around the world saying such and such doesn't respect me, my boss doesn't respect me, my parents don't respect me, nobody respects me. Well, you know what? They don't respect you because you don't respect you. So find the love and respect for yourself, and other people will do the same. They will be a mirror to you. So the next question is, do other people respect me? So ask that of yourself again, and then heal that if that's still a limiting belief for you. And the last one I'm going to share with you, there's a whole list of them, and if you end up doing a session with me, I will work through them with you. And I do have super powerful intuition, so I can actually draw these out of you without you possibly even knowing, and we get to the bottom of what's actually super, super holding you back in life. So the last one is I am enough. Again, it breaks my heart that so many beautiful young people, men and women, feel that they're not enough in life, and that's a tragic situation that people would walk around on the planet thinking that they're not enough. Of course you're enough. you're born against all odds, you know. God, I went to an orphanage yesterday, and there was this little baby there who was born at 26 weeks. And her mother was a drug addict, and she was, she had a traumatic childhood. Actually, the mother, the whole situation. Not going to go too deeply into it, but the baby was born at 26 weeks. The mother died. So this little baby, who is now, nearly 2, is in an orphanage, and you tell me that she didn't have a right to be here, that she's not enough. Against all odds, that child is here on this earth and survived and is being loved and cared for. And I really can't wait to see what her dharma is, because just like you, she was meant to be here and meant to be here to change lives. And so are you. Okay. So first of all, I'll show you the 2 methods that work for me for muscle testing. One of them is bringing your fingers together in a lock situation like this. So try to really physically pull them apart as much as you can. And if you can't get them apart, then that's where we want to start from. So I want you to ask a positive question, something that you know that the answer is a positive statement, and I want to ask you something that you know is a quite negative statement, okay? So when you go to pull your fingers apart with that strength, say, and my name is Kate, by the way. So my name is Kate, and it holds strong. And I'm going to say my name is Charlie Brown. Okay, so that's weak for me. So I know holding strong for me is my positive, and when my fingers come apart, that's my negative. You may be different, but you need to test it. And I like to say you need to test it every time before you actually start, because sometimes we get a little off balance, a bit off kilter, and the muscle testing doesn't work properly. The reason that muscle testing works, by the way, is that the subconscious mind affects the nervous system, which affects the muscles. So we're muscle testing our subconscious mind, remembering that conscious mind knows that you are complete perfection. There's nothing wrong with you. You are perfect in every way, and we're trying to get back to that soul connection. Excuse me for a minute. Okay. So the other way that I muscle test, just in case that doesn't work for you, is to make a circle like that with my fingers. I'll go that way. And then I put the two fingers here, thumb and forefinger in, and then try and open up. So my name is Kate. It holds really strong. I'm pulling apart as crazy. And my name is Charlie Brown. Okay, so it opens up. My name is Charlie Brown. Obviously, that's a negative for me. So that's the two ways that you can muscle test. So I want you to go ahead after this video and then muscle test for your name, first of all, something that's not your name that you know isn't true for you. And then I want you to ask the first question, I'm worthy of love, and see how that goes. There may be tears, of course, because the first time that you have this connection with the subconscious mind to the conscious, it's like this relief and release that finally I've woken up to what needs to be healed. And it's powerful, and there, as I said, there will be tears, maybe not. Maybe with the statement, I'm enough. Just go with whatever happens, and if there's tears, let them come, because tears are a release. It's like, yeah, finally, he is, I've woken up to what needs to be healed. I'm on my way. This is the start. This is the start of your healing journey. Removing these limiting beliefs is like taking sandbags off your back. And the more that you do it, the freer you become, the more confident you become in this modality. The more you do it, the more you wake up out of bed every morning and go, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to smash out a couple of these limiting beliefs today before I even start my day. Before I go on, I'll share with you one of my limiting beliefs beyond all those ones we just talked about. I had, for many years, felt like I was a magnet to other people's surfboards when I was surfing. And my limiting belief was, because I often would get hit by other people's boards, that I got in the way when I was surfing. So what did that do to me? It stopped me shining as a surfer, for sure, because I would always go and sit off on my own and surf where nobody could probably run into me. I used to think that it was my fault, that I'd caused it somehow, even when logically I could go back through the sequence of events and I hadn't actually caused the incident at all. I would still blame myself. And what it did was mean I wouldn't paddle into the lineup, so I didn't actually get really good position location for surfing. And so one day I was going into the water and I thought, I'll do some clearing of my limiting belief around fear and surfing. And I did that, and it felt a bit better, to be sure. I went out surfing and things felt a bit better, and I felt like I got some good waves, and I didn't feel as fearful as I had in the past, but still I didn't go into the lineup. I kind of didn't encroach into a lineup. I sat out on the edge a little, And so then I went back to my limiting belief clearing process, and I was like, well, my limiting belief was actually that I'd get in the way. It wasn't so much about the fear of surfing, but it was more, or even the fear of being hit, but it was the limiting belief that I get in the way. So I did some work around clearing that limiting belief. And then next time I paddled out, I paddled straight into the line up and again and again and again until I actually was confident to go surfing in the lineup. And I'm not saying I charge out the back and with all the guys and young girls that are top surfers, but I'm certainly a lot braver than what I used to be, and I no longer have that limiting belief that I get in the way. I have other limiting beliefs which keep me safe, which is I don't need to surf 5-foot waves or 4-foot waves even half the time, unless it's nice and fat. So anyway, that's enough about me. But I just wanted to show you that there's all sorts of limiting beliefs. They don't have to be hard, serious, traumatic ones, which of course this work works beautifully for, but it also can start to clear some of the other limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs will actually start to manifest as boundaries. And so a limiting belief. So for me, the boundary there was that I wouldn't go into the lineup. So perhaps you've had a situation where you don't trust women because they've let you down in the past. So you create boundaries of really only keeping a very small group of friends that are women, and maybe you like to hang out with guys even more because at least you can trust guys. Well, that's creating a boundary, and that is a limiting belief. And once you come out the other side of it, you'll see that most women are absolutely beautiful and supportive and worthy of having in your life, because we support each other and we lift each other up. So and you've all seen the extremes of creating boundaries where some people don't even leave the house. Like that, crazily and sadly, it breaks my heart to know that there are people that will not leave their house because of one limiting belief that may have started when they were really young as a result of one comment or situation that has been perpetuated by this lower mind. Sad, so sad. We can fix this stuff. We can. If I can fix it, you can fix it. And there's so many limiting beliefs that I have that I've managed to smash through, and my life feels extraordinary for it. Okay. So the one way that we can get through our limiting beliefs is, of course, you hear about people who can stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of love. And apparently you can do that for 45 days. And then eventually your brain will believe it. Well, you know what? That happens, but it doesn't hold, because it's not actually doing what it needs to do in the brain to cut the synapses of that neuron firing up to the filing cabinet. Okay, we need to get in there. We need to cut that synapses. So one of the ways that we cut the synapses is through EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is called tapping. And I believe there was a beautiful girl a week ago talking to about EFT. Mine is a slightly different version of it, but similar in many ways. And it works on meridian points. So we have meridian points here on the outside of our palm of our hand. We have them here up on the crown of the head. We have them here above the eyebrow on this bony bit here. We have them here on the temple. We have them here in the bony bit in the middle corner of the eye, not in the eye, but just below. We have them here between the nose and the upper lip, between the chin and the lip, lower lip, on the collarbone. So you maybe not be able to hear that, but I'm tapping quite hard, and under the armpit, okay? So what we do is we come up with our limiting belief statement, and as I demonstrated before with the surfing, you need to be super clear about what that is. So I had a person one time that was talking about that they weren't very, tolerant of their partner. So if it's a lack of tolerance that you have, then you can say, even though I am intolerant of such and such, whoever that is, I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay. But before you go ahead and do that, do the muscle test. Am I intolerant? If it goes like this, come up with another word. It could be impatient. So I'm impatient. Okay, so impatient. Even though I am impatient with my partner, I deeply and completely accept myself. So it's important that you get the language right, because if you think it's something and it's not that, then you will still have this residual feeling inside of you that needs to be healed. Don't worry, you will know it when you've nailed it, because at the beginning, when you've nailed your statement, when you've muscle tested, I want you to ask yourself out of 10 how that makes you feel. So is it when you're recalling that situation, does it make you feel 10 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, a 5 out of 10? What we want to do is get it down to about a 3 or a 2 or a none, which would be fantastic. So you get your statement. Even though I am not worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm not worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. So you say your statement 3 times. Even though I'm not worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. Right? Then you tap. Even though I'm not worthy of love. Don't have to say the whole statement. Tap around. Even though I'm not worthy of love. 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 Take a moment to sit with that. Breathe, close your eyes, soften your belly, and try to recall the emotion that you felt in the beginning and re-rate it. So if it hasn't shifted, then 100% you haven't got the dialogue right. If it's shifted from, say, a 10 to a 7, let's go again. So you do it again. Even though I am not worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm not worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm not worthy of love, I deeply and completely accept myself. I'm not worthy of love. 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 Sorry, and I'm not worthy of love. Again, close the eyes, breathe, soften the belly. Try to recall that experience in its entirety. So I want you to really feel that experience and then re-rate it. So this time we know that it's the right experience because it's dropped from a 10 to a 7. Maybe it's dropped to a 5. Then redo the sequence. If it's dropped to a 3 or below, fantastic. Then you have shifted a limiting belief enough that you can start to open up. And trust me that you will actually open up like a flower. Your life will start to become rich beyond your wildest imagination. And you will be able to evolve and start to really engage in life in a very different way than you have in the past. So what happens is when we hold ourselves back, we really miss out on a lot of stuff in life. And it really, again, breaks my heart. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful adult children, 23-year-old daughter and 26-year-old son. And I have to say that they, if I thought for a minute that they were going through life with overwhelmed with limiting beliefs that were holding them back, I would be heartbroken. And when we're probably not going to be able to get to the bottom of all of them, but gee, this is a great start. If you can love yourself, know that you're worthy, know that other people love you unconditionally, know that other people respect you, you respect yourself. If you can get to that place that you actually believe them at a cellular level, and then your mind is connected to your conscious mind, then you're going to start to live a different life. I always like to say to people that I work with that, it's super subtle. So you can feel that difference when you come from a 10 to a 7, for example. But it's super subtle because over time it might be, say, for example, you think your mother hasn't respected you. So my mum doesn't respect me. So even though my mum doesn't respect me, I deeply and completely accept myself. You know the sequence. We go through the whole thing. But, like within days or hours sometimes, they'll message me and go, my God, my mum just rang me, or mum just sent me like a full page email telling me all the things that she loved about me. Or all the things that she respects about me and she's proud of me. And it's like, what happened there? I know what happened. The energy shifted because thoughts are just energy. And if we focus on the thoughts in a particular energy, that is what is going to be reflected back to us. That is all that we are going to see. If we shift the energy, which is what we're doing through this system, the EFT, then all of a sudden the energy will be shifted in the other direction. And it doesn't matter if mum's halfway around the world, because this is energy. And if we understand how we're all connected, then it's super easy to see that it's as if we're standing next to each other. We don't need to be standing next to each other to start to heal these limiting beliefs and these old wounds that have been created from our perception of our experiences of the past. One word I'd like to say about going back to heal stuff, I like the work that I do because mostly it's content free. And again, I'm not saying that your story doesn't matter, but when we get caught up in our stories, that is just reaffirming the thinking mind. And again, the thinking mind is just illusory. It's something that you have created from your perception of a particular situation at a time. And it is your reality. I'm not taking that from you. I understand it's your reality, but we can shift that reality. We know that we can. So why wouldn't we want to shift it to something that's super positive? Why would we want to hang on to a story, but they said this and but they did that and but I'm blah, blah, blah? Because that's actually just going to keep you in your victimhood and stop you from being able to evolve beyond that into the higher mind, actually coming from these lower chakras to the higher chakras, so that you can start to connect more with the divine, with this soul energy, and this real understanding that you are already perfect, that you haven't been broken. Your mind certainly can be broken. That is 100% for sure. But it also can be healed because we can change the dialogue around that. So again, if it's useful to you to go through your story, but really question that. Question, how long do I want to be stuck in that story? And how useful would it be for me if I could release myself from that story and have this freedom? I can tell you from my experience and from the people that I work with that it is life affirming, and that it gives us a beautiful new fresh start to life. I guess the other thing I'd really like to say before I go, and again this is kind of touching on that story stuff, is don't call your parents or your boss or your ex-partner or your current partner and blame them for anything. As I said right at the beginning, we are the reflection of all of the experiences that we've had and the perception that we had at that time of those experiences. Your mum and your dad, your grandma, your granddad, your ex-partner, your partner, your boss, they're all exactly the same. They're just humans, and they have had their experiences, what shaped them and what created them to perceive their world in the way that they do or did. Bless the ones that are so confused that they hurt other people. Send them compassion for the sad situation that they must have been in their mind to have created such a confusion or illusion. So, again, bless them. So don't go back to them. take control, take responsibility, and start your healing today. Namaste. My name is Kate Dubois. You can find me at Kate Dubois Healing the Divine. If you want to join my private group where I put up some interesting videos from time to time, and also you might like to read my ebook, Transform You, Life According to Kate. Thanks very much for your time today, and I'll see you again next week on the Whole Health Project. Namaste.